Let's Talk Oculus, a VR podcast, is proudly sponsored by the good folks at Patreon. If you want to support the show, join us on patreon.com/Let's Talk Oculus. What's up, Oculus nerds? Welcome back to Let's Talk Oculus, episode 161. I am your host, the cozy one amongst... Actually, no, you're the cozy one, Samson. You're the one who has the hoodie. I am Dan. I'm joined by Samson, who is on my left, wearing the hoodie. How you doing, Samson? You ready for cozy season, which is the theme of today's podcast?
It is pretty cold here in the Northeast these days, so definitely hoodie weather. Love hoodie weather, though. It is my favorite type of weather.
Yeah,
it comes twice a year usually around here. You know, once in the fall, once in the spring.
They're good seasons.
Sometimes here and there, a summer evening.
They're good seasons, to be honest. It's also the perfect season. Obviously, this is fall, and we're going into winter, where it's perfect for VR gaming, and it's perfect for all gaming in general, to be honest. Like in the summertime, maybe sometimes you're not feeling, like you're going to be in the VR mood. Maybe it's too hot. Maybe, you want to just do something outside. Where when it comes to winter time, there's nothing better than just to sit back and relax, do some gaming, play some VR, and I'm all for it. I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
Dan,
for it.
I got some cozy games to talk about later on.
Yeah, we're gonna. Sure. I mean, the theme of this show is cozy games with the odd non-cozy game in there. So we're gonna discuss that.
Good segue.
Also, later on in this podcast, in part 3, we have a great interview with Rodolfo from Viral Games and Dr Benjamin Outram, who is the creator and developer behind Squingle. Squingle is a puzzle game, if you've not heard of it before, and it works in mixed reality, and it is absolutely amazing. And we'll talk about that in a moment, where we'll give our actual impressions. But then at the end of the show, great interview. You'll realize why Dr. Benjamin is a doctor, because he speaks like an academic, and everything he explains in VR, it's so smart in the way he interacts with VR and what his thought process is going into when he's developing the game. It was a very intellectual conversation.
The beetle bit with the
refraction and such.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. Little tease.
But before we get going, just a quick housekeeping. If you haven't joined the Discord already, come join us in the Discord channel. It's free for everybody. You could use the link in the description below. And we also have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. It's only $1 if you just want to give us, just a quick thank you. But if you want to give us more at the $5 level, you get this podcast a day early as well. So feel free to send us some love in this holiday season. Samson, let's talk about the couple really small news stories before we go into all these cozy games and such. First one. We've got the Game Awards VR and AR nominations. They came in earlier on this week. The nominations are Batman, Arkham Shadow, Arizona Sunshine Remake, Metro Awakening, Asgard's Wrath 2, and Metal Hellslinger VR. Those are the 5 games that have been nominated for VR and AR Game of the Year. Samson, your thoughts on this? The thoughts on this list first, before we get into what we think would win.
Yeah. Well, first disclosure, I haven't played all the games on the list. Certainly I haven't played all the game on the list through. In fact, played none of the game on the list through.
Not yet. It's very hard to complete a game.
But I do have the vibe of the, how these games are. And I have gotten into the beginning of all but one of them. So Metal Hellsinger VR, that's on there because it was a flat game and it's got name recognition for sure. Because something else should be there.
What would you think should be there? I was going to say the same thing. I feel like that is the game that I haven't played, to be honest, but it is the one game that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb out of all of them.
I played the demo and I wasn't that into it. This is when I got into it a little, but I'd put Underdogs. Underdogs is great.
Max Mustard.
Max Mustard was great. Love that one.
People forget, but Resident Evil 4 on the PlayStation VR 2, like the proper remake, not just like the Quest version, that
When did that come out?
that came out around Arizona. That came out around Asgard's Wrath 2 kind of time. I thought I'll have a double check, but keep going.
Well, that's the only one I feel weakest about. I think I'm hoping Batman wins. To be honest, I really hope Batman wins. I really want that for Camouflage. And I mean, Metro winning would be pretty great for Vertigo. Asgard's Wrath 2, probably it's a great game. I know Live Open Mike loves it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people's game of the year in general.
If Meta's gonna win one, I want them to win it with Batman and Camouflage. So, there's that. And then Arizona Sunshine, I think is probably on here for name recognition.
Another weird one as well, really. Actually, to be honest, because that's obviously game has been out for like 6 years, and they did remake it in the game engine in the Arizona Sunshine 2 game engine. Now the Game Awards are always they do this with Flat Games as well. They're like, if the game has had a significant update or had like a significant DLC, think of like an expansion pack for Elder Scrolls or something like that, that also gets counted. It's not particularly like it needs to be made in this year. And just a quick note on that, Asgard's Wrath 2 obviously came out in December 2023. Now, Resident Evil 4 technically came out in like March 2023, but the VR mode only got launched in December 8th, 2023. So
I gotcha.
Pretty much the same time as when Asgard's Wrath 2 came out, which is that's why that's a weird omission. Like, I feel like it should be Batman, Metro, Asgard's for sure. Obviously, Behemoth, now it's been pushed back and such. That will be for probably next year's. And same as Alien and such. But for sure, they should have looked at one of the indie titles like Underdogs or Max Mustard, because those two games are like also, the standout indie games.
It kind of makes you want a VR AR indie awards to go along with all these AAA games out there,
right? Or like the Metal Hellsinger's the big licensed one as well. So I think Resident Evil 4, I haven't obviously played it. I don't have a PSVR 2 anymore. But that, with just going on like what Resident Evil 7 was like and Resident Evil 8 Village was like in VR, that should definitely be in there. And yeah, like I said, Underdog or Max Mustard. There might be another game that came out this year that I've forgotten. And I'm sure like at the end of this year, we'll do our like year in review and kind of go into the games that we really enjoyed this year. But those are the two, like you said, stand out that are missing. And it's sad. It's a shame. It's a real shame because they should definitely be.
Which do you think will win?
I think out of them, I think Asgard's Wrath 2 will get the nod. I think I think just the way that how the list is kind of put together, I think Asgard's Wrath 2 will get the nod. I didn't get past the bloody scorpions in that game, just because I was like, these in my brain, I was like, these are like kind of spiders, but little scorpions I don't mind, but these giant ones which are the size of I don't know, like a couch. I don't know if I couldn't get past that. Big. But anyway, that's quite early on, so I was enjoying that. But I can see that winning just from the reception, just from the reviews. Even I remember IGN giving it a really top review, and obviously that's like a main outlet as well. So I can see that winning. I think the fan favorite will be Batman or Metro, and also because it's so fresh. But I think Asgard's Wrath 2 probably deserves it all. I mean, if there was different categories, Batman would win like combat, for example. Metro will probably win in a just eeriness / immersiveness. I know I've been playing a bit more of that, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I think Asgard's. What about you?
Batman. I'm going with my gut with what I want. I'm gonna wish it. I'm gonna will it. I'm gonna will it into existence.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, if anyone else has got any thoughts on this, let us know in the Spotify comments, YouTube comments, or in the Discord as well. What you think will win, or who like what do you think should be in this list and it's not? Like if you take out Arizona, take out Metal Hellsinger, like what would you put in that place? So yeah, we're interested in your thoughts, and probably we'll discuss it again once it actually gets
Yeah.
announced. Do you know when the Game Awards are? Do you know what that is? That like the second week of December or something
It's
like that?
sometime soon. It's sometime soon.
Yeah, it's normally in December. I just remember, but and there's normally like announcements. In fact, it's on the Thursday, the December 12th,
There you have it.
at 7:30 Eastern. There's normally announcements, but very rarely like a big VR announcement. But you never know. You never know. There might be like an Alien trailer or
Is it
something like that.
strange now for these things to be in the evening for you?
Yeah, now I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird. It's I just gotta figure out how to stay up late. I got my time clock's got to change a little bit more. I'm still used to just going to bed at like 9:30, 10, and
Yeah. That's when
but
sports are starting.
exactly now I'm finding out that there's some games on late. Speaking of sports, Samson, great segue.
I nailed it.
The national sport in your country is NFL. It's the biggest watch sport in America, and they did well. At least ESPN had something really cool to kind of talk about. So it looks like this was after a Buffalo Bills game, and basically Dan Orlovsky. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name just correctly.
You nailed it.
Did I? Well, he's on ESPN on NFL Live in particular, going over. It looks like it's the Bills and the Chiefs from what I'm seeing, but I have not kept up with NFL this year. But he's using the Quest and using Pro Era Visualizer is what it's called to basically mark out what's happening on the game and calling the play-by-play and showing like where the like the zones are, where the runners are going to be, and kind of doing what they used to do when it comes to sports and like highlighting players and showing runs on a screen.
Think like John Madden
There you
drawing
go.
on the screen.
There we go. But also like he's just doing it in VR, which is so cool. Like, what do you think of this, Samson, as more of a NFL fan?
The coolest part to me was that he could first take the first person view of any player on the field and then run the play through that view. So you could get a real sense of how the field felt to each player. And in particular, there were two wide receivers running up the field right next to one another, and he took the position of both of them. And they were basically running a pick play. So the inside player was running straight, and the outside player was cutting right behind that player, and the ball was being thrown to that player who was running in behind the player setting the pick.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that made sense. You should watch the play if you haven't.
Yeah,
it was very cool how you could get the first person view of everybody on the field throughout the play. That was probably the most unique part to me.
Yeah.
Because everything else you could like as you mentioned,
you could do it on a screen. Right?
You could already do it on a on the screen. But that felt cool. The space, feeling the space as the players.
Yeah, and it was a full like 5-minute segment on there as well, going through. Really, really cool. I hope
they're really pushing. They're really pushing into sports. They sponsored that fight on Netflix, a boxing fight.
Oh, Tyson
and
one. Yeah.
As I'll talk about later, I got into XStadium. Got into one of those games, the 360s. So they're really trying to push into the world of sports to push their name out there into the mainstream.
I think they need to, because otherwise Apple will come in and take over, because Apple that's their target market. They're going for the non-gamers. They're going for the different types of use cases when it comes to VR, and like they promote travel mode a lot, of going, taking this on an airplane, and I'm not sure how comfortable it is, but that's what the mainstream sees and such, where the mainstream for Quest for a long time has been games, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but it won't appeal to a wide variety of audience as well, where it's important to show that this can do a lot more. That's why they've been promoting mixed reality and productivity quite a lot recently, in education, because they've already got the gamers. Like if you're into VR gaming, the best place to play is Quest. Like, but without a shadow of a doubt, there's pros and cons to everywhere, but the Quest has the biggest library. The Quest has portability and the most player count as well. So what about everyone else, right? What about the people who are into sports? Like you'll see in a future episode, I have created. We've already done an interview with Adam from Rezel, who are creating the Premier League game, and you'll see that interview on next week's pod. But we talk about it in there in terms of like how do you like what else can you use it for with VR, and could you like have a area where you're watching an NFL game and it's halftime, say, and halftime at NFL, what's like 10, 15 minutes break or something like that. What if you just put on your headset and you can run some of the plays that just happened in the first half of the game? Like it'll be like live. Like that would appeal to a lot of people. And sports is going crazy in terms of the numbers right now. Like it's in a bigger audience for a lot of these big leagues, whether it's NFL, whether it's Premier League, soccer, and all that stuff. So it's such an important market. And I think it's a clever idea. And then it's also great for NFL Pro Era as well, because their name is on there and people are like, oh my gosh, what is this NFL? Like, and they'll Google that and they'll figure out that it's a game that you can play as a quarterback. Like everything is in a green light in terms of what they're doing. It's a great idea, and they need to do it before Apple comes in, because Apple will come in and steal that limelight once it gets a headset that's a bit more affordable.
Yeah, so. I would love to have something where they had like 100 of the best plays of the NFL history, or even 100 of the best plays of the last year, something like this, where you could just replay, or even weekly, the best touchdown plays of that week, and it just updated weekly. And it was like 15 to 20 plays where you could just watch them in this same manner and really experience the plays and break down plays yourself. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and that will appeal
at home. But there's no way that they allow this, in my opinion. And this is clearly just for ESPN. You can't do this at home.
You never know, though, because once again, I know we're kind of branching into the podcast that we're going to kind of put out next week. But like if you've not seen, there's a game that Rezel's creating called Premier League Player. It's out December 3rd. I can say that now and such, and you can go watch the trailer and such. But essentially what they're doing right now is basically they've picked like a bunch of major moments that's happened in the Premier League soccer over the last year, and you can essentially replay those plays, like from the passing from the start all the way up to shooting and scoring the goal, and you can relive that. And basically they've captured all of that data from the actual games, so all of the players are kind of running in real time exactly how it is. And once you're also on the field as well, you get to experience exactly how fast a Premier League soccer game is, because everything's moving so fast, and you get a real appreciation of the sport. You bring that to, like I said, NFL as well. That's going to appeal to a bunch of NFL fans who would love to, even if they're not care about VR gaming, but they want to, relive some of those aspects.
Here's the thing, though, Dan. I don't want to necessarily have to reenact them. I just want to be able to relive them, so to say. That is to say,
you could watch them again.
I want to have to. Yeah, I want to be able to just take the first person view of each one and control the replay. I don't want to have to actually be the person to catch or throw.
That's probably even easier.
The ball.
That's probably even easier to like if they're having this like they're already licensed with NFL, so if they're having this conversation already to bring that real world data, they have that data, and it's then making it accessible for the consumer. So it's I wouldn't say it's not going to happen, but it's definitely an avenue they can take if they want to take it that route.
I really want hockey. I really want on the goalie some sort of VR camera so you can watch goals in VR happen.
Yeah, which was from like
Ruthless.
goalie cam and such. Yeah, that'll be really cool. But yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk a bit more about this next podcast episode.
Anyway,
So we'll
yeah.
we'll move on. Let's
It's a
talk
big
about.
part one for having no news, Stan. We did it.
Yeah, it was. Well, we're going to continue this part one, and we're going to go into the games that we've been playing this week. And obviously, the theme of this is going to be more for the cozy games first. So let's talk about those cozy games. Samson, do you want to start off with one of the cozy games that you've been playing?
Yeah. Why don't I start with cozy game number 1, Walltown Wonders. I'm a few hours deep into this game currently.
Mm-hmm.
Probably
what is
about
Walltown
3
Wonders?
hours. Walltown Wonders. Walltown Wonders is a game where you are developing a town on your wall, or on your walls, if you will. And as you're upgrading the parts of your town expands and gets bigger, and you upgrade things by mining resources like wood, brick, stone, getting coins. There are stars. I'm not quite sure what I've used those for exactly, though. But as you upgrade things, other things become unlocked that then you can upgrade. There's a lot of different mini games, and the mini games seem to upgrade to like the next level of mini games after doing it the same one 5 times, which I've done on a couple of them, but not all of them. I do particularly like the fishing one, though I'm only at time number 4 on it. It's your classic fishing video game mechanism where you throw the reel.
Yeah.
You have to hold down A, and you have to get the distance and the aiming correct. The music is great. Steel drums, fantastic. Chef kiss. And so you throw the reel. You wait until you see a little, boop boop.
Yeah.
And then you press A, pull it in, and your guy does a little jig. It's great. Does a little dance. It's very nice.
Which mini games have you gone past the 5 stages?
The flying. So there's an airplane. You get an airfield, and you guide the plane with your controller. Right. I like to be just pretty much right in front of the plane, and you guide it through little circles. Kind of think like Iron Man going through all that, or Superman if you've done those.
Nice.
Those old games.
What changed
and
after?
Then it got timed, and I had to do things in order as well.
Right. What change? Did anything change after you did it the 5 times? Like, did you notice the change in mini game, or was it like upgraded or anything?
Well, that's what I mean. I hit the first one. You could do just sort of at your own time.
Oh.
And they only came up really one at a time.
Right.
The next one, there was like 6 showing, and you had to do them in order.
Yeah. Nice. Sweet.
There's also a diving mini game. There's a river games. One of them plays like Frogger.
Nice.
It's kind of fun. And then there's a mine. Then mining is sort of a mini game, I guess. It's more like you're exploring the mine.
Yeah.
And the town really starts out. I didn't quite realize until I looked at the screenshots, but your town really starts out small, and as you build it out, it really all comes together quite nicely. When I first started playing the game, I was playing more on 2 separate walls, so things were kind of distant, but lately I've been playing on one bigger wall, and I really like how everything sort of blends together. So it really takes over the entire wall, and it looks like it's a part of the wall outside of where I have a major gap in the doorway, and then it's just there on the air. But,
so you need a big wall eventually, or is there a way to kind of move stuff around?
I mean, you need wall space for sure.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you.
But you can move things around.
Yeah.
And if you change rooms, it just has you place everything that's already in existence again on your new room. Yeah.
That's cool. What does the graphics look like? Do they look pretty sharp in mixed reality?
Yeah, I'd say they look pretty sharp. Everything's very tiny. They are basically the size of Borrowers, if you're familiar with this book and or movie. But you can get kind of up close to them, and they look good, but everything's so tiny. It's not.
Hey, I remember the Lego.
I'm not like thinking like, oh, this is really impressive.
Yeah,
but maybe that means they're very good.
That must mean it's
not. If they were terrible, I'd be like, oh, that stands out. But
yeah,
exactly.
The Lego one, the Lego game. I forget what it's called now. Lego Brick Tales. The reason why I pull it out is because Lego Brick Tales.
The aliasing.
Yeah, it didn't look that great in mixed reality compared to VR. VR looks super sharp and perfect, but the aliasing was like a bit.
There's like a shimmer.
Yeah, a little bit off-putting in the mixed reality mode. That's why I was wondering if this wall town.
I think I noticed that more when I have a character that's off the wall. So there's some of the mini games you've got to explore your floor, kind of. I don't want to really give away that much.
Yeah,
but those ones are probably where the graphics I feel are at the weakest. But I don't know. That's sort of because when it's all one thing put together, I just feel like that's where it's at its strongest.
What does it?
I do wish it had.
Oh, sorry, go on. You continue.
I do wish it had voice acting. Everything it plays sort of think like a Nintendo game, like Pokemon or something, where you click on a character and you get a small bubble of text that you're clicking through, and that's sort of what's guiding you through the story and the mini games.
Yeah,
it does have some charm though.
What's the actual goal of this game? Are you just trying to build like a big village, basically? And it's just from what I remember from what I'm reading into it, like if you were to start completely again by fresh, does that make even sense? But you know what I mean, like from you.
I understand. A clean slate.
It's like you could have a completely different experience in terms of what pops up in terms of the wall town window, essentially.
I suppose you could probably upgrade things differently. I'm not 100% sure how it would play out exactly differently. But I mean, like, because I can go after particular resources and farm particular resources. But I don't have a sense necessarily of how much that changes the game.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And the blimp, there's a blimp to fertilize. I got 1 out of 3. So generally in these mini games, you got to do something 3 times. And I'm not sure exactly how to control that blimp or how to do that mini game. So I just got that one by mistake.
Yeah.
But everything else I've been able to figure out, and or you can hit like the hamburger button, like the left Oculus button, if you will, and it'll give you usually some directions. But
fair enough. Yeah. I'm assuming it's pretty charming when every time a new area just pops up in the wall.
It's quite nice. The music's fantastic. Like I said, the music on the diving and the fishing minigame in particular, but all over. And and our listeners know, and it really, I know Mike knows that music's something I often turn down in games because I'm listening to something else. I'm a multitasker. But this is one I had the music up for, and it really does help set the mood. It's quite nice.
Nice.
Definitely recommend having that on. If you're looking for a cozy mixed reality game where you're not going to get motion sick at all, you can kind of do it, and it's kind of like an Animal Crossing or whatever, where things are happening in the background, right? So you can kind of have it going and do something else if you want at the same time, and then come back to it. It's if you want to take it slow and do it that way. I mean, I'm kind of more. I'm constantly watering my plants.
Yeah.
And doing. I'm trying to get through. I'm trying to upgrade everything. I want to see how big I can make this thing. But it's a great mixed reality cozy game. If that's what you're looking for, 100% recommend it.
Fantastic.
If you're looking for fast-paced action,
We have
Can't
other
really
games.
recommend it.
We have other games.
Now, I do have. There are sometimes I feel like things have gotten behind other things, like underneath my floor or something. Maybe that's what's going on in that blimp to fertilize game. I'm not 100% sure. But outside that, I haven't really encountered
any bugs or anything.
Yeah, one time a character was kind of in the wall, but I was able to still read what he said because the word bubbles are still readable.
Fair
so
enough.
it didn't end up really
so he couldn't break down the wall and get through.
And you can quit out of a minigame at any time, and although it might be your room setup that's sort of the cause of this, I imagine.
Yeah.
So you could just like change. You might have to like change your room and then to retry that. But yeah, overall, very much enjoying it and looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Nice. I'm assuming there's no like multiplayer in this in terms of the way it's because that doesn't make any sense, to be honest. But some games like the Animal Crossing and such, you can kind of like go into other people's worlds and see what they've done. So I was curious, but maybe one time in the future. But yeah, Wall Town Wonders. Okay, let's go into like our feature game of this episode, and that's obviously Squingle, which will have that interview at the end of this podcast itself. But in the interview itself, we don't actually go into our thoughts because we kind of wanted to save it for now. So me and Samson have been playing this game, Squingle. Just to give you a quick preface of the game, it's basically on the most surface level, the most basic level. If you think of some of those like real life games that you would have where you try and put like a ring through a maze, can we say? And if you touch the ring on the actual maze itself, it like gives you a buzz or whatnot, and you're trying to go through the maze without touching the sides. That's like on the very surface level what this game has been built off, but it's so much more. It's an excellent puzzle game. So you start off in the tutorial where it is just like as described, but then you'll realize that the piece that you're moving, instead of it being like one orb, it becomes two orbs, and it also rotates as well. So it goes clockwise, and then eventually there'll be things that you can find in the map where it will rotate you the other way and change your perspective and such and whatnot. Okay. So that's the kind of preface of the game. A Squingle is basically what the mazes are called, and there's over 100 in this game. Now, for some of you listening to this podcast, you would like be going, I've heard of this game. This came out a while ago. Yes, it did come out in 2021, but there's like a brand new updated version of it.
Remix.
Yeah, it's kind of a remix. And what we have right now in terms of the version that comes out this week is it has a bunch of levels and there's a greater emphasis on like mixed reality and such. But there's also going to be much more support coming over the next month and over the next year in 2025. You'll hear a bunch about that in the interview in terms of what they're excited about, shall we say, without getting into too much detail. But I enjoyed the game a lot. I think if anyone who loves puzzles and once again loves like a relaxing kind of cozy game in a way, and the reason why I say that is that you play this in mixed reality. I think there is a VR mode as well, but I didn't use that. I just went into mixed reality. And it's one of those things where you could literally sit down and do the maze and bring it towards you and such like that. Or you could do what I kind of played it as, and I just got up and made the maze as big as I could. And I was like using I was rotating around with my body and trying to get through these kind of the challenges itself. It's a beautiful game. It looks fantastic. The music is very thoughtfully curated rather, and sounds fantastic. It has full spatial audio in there, and it does cool effects on the actual mixed reality side of things, where it like dims your room when like there's this goddess that comes in and kind of gives you like the intro to the next like set of Squingles, shall we say, and the room dims and it kind of feels like it's in your actual room itself. And I think the key word of this game is flow state. Like, it gets you in that flow state very quickly, and you end up spending a lot of time just going through puzzles after puzzles. And even if you just was like, oh, okay, let me just do one quickly, ends up being maybe 2 or 3 or 4, because you get really into it. And with all the visuals and audio and the sensors that are playing, as we'll get into in the interview, it kind of plays into getting into your flow state. And it, in one sense, it does really relax you. It's because of all those sensors that are playing around at the same time. Like, it does put you in this relaxing flow state. And yeah, it's a very good game. Samson, what are your thoughts on Squingle?
Yeah, so I have played only the 99-cent demo, which comes with 10 levels and an 11th bonus level.
Squingle Mini, that one's called.
The Squingle Mini. Yes, it is. There you go. But I do now have the full game. So I'll talk about that, the full game, I guess, in the future as I play it. But for now, I'll talk about the Squingle Mini, which is 10 levels. They progress quite nicely. That's sort of my favorite part of this game, is how each level slowly builds on the previous level. And so by the end, if you had started on that last level, there's no way you would have been like, oh, that's a challenge. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Mm-hmm. But by the time you get to that level, you've built up this confidence and sort of this know-how. The thing basically becomes a third appendage, and it sort of becomes a part of you, and you're learning how to rotate and change the rotation. Just feels natural, and that once you reach that flow state where it feels like that, that's where it really reaches, what the game is trying to, I feel like, seek out and get that replayability. Ultimately, you want to, but if you want this to be a really chill experience, you can, right? And just solve the puzzle at your own pace. But if you want to take it very competitively, you also can, because there are leaderboards eventually, I believe.
Yeah, there's timed leaderboards and such. I don't think that's in the mini version, but in the full game, yeah.
And I imagine those get fast.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because in the actual game itself, you have a bunch of orbs that you would want to collect as you go through, because they'll give you more points, essentially, without lack of a better term, and you'll need to rack up a certain amount of points to get to the next stage itself, where it's basically each stage is 10 squingles. So you want to get those orbs, but then there's also different ways to playing it, like Samson just mentioned, where you can just ignore those orbs and just try and complete the level as fast as you can, and maybe without taking as much damage, because you have 3 lives essentially. So you want to kind of go through it. Yeah.
You don't want to hit the sides. You can only hit the sides, the walls, basically, 3 times.
Yeah, and otherwise you have to restart and such. But there are checkpoints throughout the map as well. I just think it sounds like such a simple game on the surface, but then when you actually play the game, you realize how much, and you'll see from the interview as well, you'll see how much thought has gone into every little element, even down to the art style of what the actual squiggles kind of look and feel like. There's so much going on in here, and you in a way sometimes you don't notice it, because it just feels very authentic and very real, and it works so well in mixed reality because of that. So yeah, I would, if you're just curious, they've got Squingle Mini, as you just said, Samson. Go get that. It's $1. It's probably always going to be $1. It's like a bit of a demo, and it's well worth it. And if you really enjoy it, then go get the full game. And this is also a great game for newbies as well. If anyone who enjoys puzzles, this is great for also non-VR players. If you've got significant others or friends or whoever who are just into puzzles, maybe they like to do the Wordle or the New York Times games or something like that. This is a great one to kind of put them into, because once again, it's mixed reality, so it makes it very accessible to use, and you don't get that VR aspect of being enclosed or anything like that. And also, if this is a good game if you wanted to stream it. If you could stream it onto your TV, and then one could do it in real time, and you could see on the TV what they're looking at. This is a great one. It's fantastic. It's got a lot of good reviews in terms of the 2021 version of this game, and rightfully so. This would probably win some puzzle awards, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, it was very good.
So that's Squingle. Obviously, if you're super interested, stay tuned for that interview at the end of this pod. Samson, what else are you playing that maybe is cozy or not so cozy?
I'll stick to one more kind of cozy game in that I got into XStadium, checked out an NBA game from the court side. I happened to hop in right at halftime, so that was kind of cool. I saw this acrobat guy get
like a halftime show kind of thing. Yeah,
100%. Just watched the halftime show. It was very cool. And then I watched a little bit of the third quarter.
Nice. How was it?
High quality, feels good. It's if you're into basketball, it's a really cool thing. I wish there were more games, but 52 is cool. It seems to be, a couple a week, basically.
Yeah, it's a good start for sure. I think they're just kind of testing the waters. They also have the UFC in there as well. At some point, like normal fight nights and such. It's an interesting one because with that Tyson fight that you said at the start of the show, they were advertised on that, and they're putting it in like, watch it in MetaQuest and such. But you couldn't watch it in like a 360 view.
Yeah, no, you had to go in Netflix.
Yeah, it was just watch it through Netflix, which is, obviously makes sense because obviously, this Netflix has the rights, but that would have been a great opportunity for people. That's a very 100%. Popular fight. A lot of people who didn't watch boxing ended up watching that fight because it was on Netflix and such. But, that would have been a good opportunity to just also showcase the VR one.
Was yours lagging too?
Actually, I didn't have.
Yours was lagging.
I had no issues streaming. It worked.
Really?
Yeah, it worked. As someone who has probably the worst internet, maybe it's a bit better now. I'm in Toronto, but
you were watching it live because one of my friends said he didn't have trouble, and then I was like, he's like, wait, what round is it? I was like, round 7. He's like, oh no, I'm in the pregame.
So he's watching it right at the start. Well, archive. No, I was watching. The only time it kind of stopped was I think in between the Katie Taylor fight and the Tyson fight, and it stopped for like maybe a minute. But then I just left it, and then eventually it came back on. But it didn't stop at all. That was absolutely fine. So
gotcha.
I was looking at the comments and I saw people saying that, and like, oh, it's a bad look for future live events and all that. And I'm like, I don't know. I just worked for me. So
Yeah.
Mileage may vary when it comes to these internet things. Samson, I'm going to switch it up a bit. We're going to go past cozy, but you can technically. Well, actually, this game is now a bit more cozier for me, but it's definitely still not cozy. Let's talk about Metro. Metro has just announced and just put in and updated their Arachnophobia mode. It was a very quick turnaround. What was that? Just a week or so since the game, week and a half or so. And they put the Arachnophobia mode. Now, I was curious to see what they were going to do because, you think of something like Dungeons of Eternity, they've kind of replaced all the spiders with like these weird blob things. But they're still like in there, but like obviously you don't realize that the spiders are a different look. In this game, though, with Metro, they just took it out completely. They were like, you know what, F it, we're going to take it out. They don't exist. So you'll see spider webs. That's the only thing. So when I put it on, I had to check in the settings, Arachnophobia mode was on and such, and I finally got it on. And just for you, Samson, real quick, if you ever do want to put that mode on, just make sure you're not in the press build of the mode and it will work for you. But yeah, so I went in and I was scared at first because I still had to do, and I was like, what if it wasn't on properly? Or what if it was, so what if this is a prank? But as soon as you get past the first, 2 minutes that I remember when the spider was going on my face and all that stuff, it's basically removed. They've obviously changed some stuff up in terms of like animations. Like the first time you go through the spider web, your character kind of freezes and says like that. And as a spider goes across, that obviously doesn't happen. You just walk through and stuff. So it's not just like, remove spiders. They have like changed up the game ever so slightly in those aspects. But yeah, they just don't exist. So as I'm going through the start, like I can see where the spiders would be, because you can still see like the green radioactivity, and as I've seen on videos, that's where the spiders are. There's just nothing there. But it's still a very scary game. It's
So you
just
never
that
really had to kill them, huh?
You do, because they jump on your face. They jump on your face.
Okay.
Yeah. So you do have to kill them because they jump on your face.
It does make it a little easier.
It does make it a little easier. Yeah. Maybe you don't have to maybe they don't actually attack you as much. Maybe they do just go on your face, but they don't like waste your bullets. I don't know. But because I never did it because I got too scared. So I'm not too sure. But yeah, so I proceeded through the game. I've almost finished the second chapter now. I think I am anyway. It feels quite close, but it's a very eerie game. Like when you get into like the depths of chapter 2, everything becomes so much more darker. And I'm not sure if they've done anything on the visuals, but it slightly looks better than what I remember as well.
Are you playing on medium, like the normal
easy
mode?
I'm on easy.
You went to easy?
I'm still dying as times,
Really?
Yeah. So first of all, the alien kind of radioactive kind of aliens, shall we say, they're fun because they like. I've obviously got an easy mode because I'm okay. I just want to kind of go through the game and just enjoy it. But when they come out, they're really fast, and then they jump on you and like scratch your head, and then they run around like the map. So it's not like they're just a character that just comes at you, and you can just shoot them. They will run around and just scratch you, run around and hide. And then you need to listen for them and try and figure out where they're going to come from. And then you'll listen and you'll hear them, and then you'll see them come in front of you. So it's really clever. It's not just a basic NPCs just coming at you, as it kind of alludes to in the tutorial aspect of it, where they're all coming at you. But that's not what the case is. They do hide and everything. So that's really fun. Even though I'm playing on easy, I'm picking up a lot of bullets, but I actually ran out of bullets towards the end of it, to be honest. I've got to a part where there's also human NPCs now, where you have to kill them, and actually finding them a little bit harder to get by. I actually found like out of all the things I have to kill, they are the hardest at the moment because
you got to headshot them.
Well, yeah, you kind of got to. You can kill them like in terms of headshots. That's not the hard part. The hard part is that they can see your light on your head, so you have to turn your light off, and then it becomes like almost pitch black. Like even in the quest, like you can't see a thing, so you're just looking like it's pitch black in the room, and you're just like seeing a couple of random light spots or trying to make out where the person's head is. That's where it gets really difficult, because if I had the light on, it becomes a bit more easier. I can sneak around them and all that stuff, but it's not as dark, so it's really hard. It's really hard to play. So I've died a few times, and also it seems like when they see me, they've got assault rifles. They kill me in seconds. I've now also picked up an assault rifle, which is very satisfying, but the bullets go very, very quickly.
Yeah, pew pew pew,
pew pew pew. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's one of those games that I just kind of be in the mood for to play, but yeah, having a good time. What else you got going on, Samson?
I'll talk a little bit about Exo Cars because I see it's on your list, and I did get into a little bit. I only did about 4 races of it. I do things I like, I guess, is where I'll start. I like how the career mode, if you will, is going through all of the courses, and you're unlocking them as you go. And you kind of got to get better as you're going, right, to unlock these courses. And at least I felt like the 4th one was a bit more challenging than the first one. The first one, and so the thing is, there are no AI. You're racing against. I imagine they just set it up so that every race you do or every race you do online is logged and saved.
Yeah,
and then it's saved as a ghost. And then if you're playing on easy or like in those early levels, they're just using bad ghosts.
I don't know. I feel like like those ghosts.
Right off the bat, the ghosts hit all the other ghosts hit the wall. And I was just like, oh, that seemed odd. And then I put it together that they weren't like AI.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I get it now because I also just did that. So I am having a tough time getting like a feel. It feels slippery to me. I'll say that, but also you just got to get good at you can't always accelerate, obviously.
Oh.
And so you got to get good at when to lay off the gas, when to brake, and when to lay on it. And turning while, braking, poor decision perhaps. And you gotta
like Mario Kart.
yeah, and you're gonna be spinning out, I feel, when you start this game, and you're gonna be hitting walls. And
I think you can press
the game,
or X to like reset, which is always handy.
Yeah. I've been playing on Steam, so I'm not sure exactly how, I can't speak to how it looks on the Quest. But on Steam, the game looks graphically pretty impressive. I wish there was a bit more interaction with the ground and the car itself, but I understand that that's like, next level sort of to do and integrate. It does, so everything does look polished. I'll say that. I wish there was like a story mode sort of, or at least like some sort of basic story mode.
Yeah.
And I wish there were car upgrades as opposed to like, I do like cosmetic upgrades to your car and your helmet and all that. But I wish I could also like change how my car is and the wheels and all that. But so I'll say if you're really desperate for some sort of racer, you pick this one up. But I also say that they have a roadmap. It's pretty extensive. So maybe just like stay in the loop with the game and keep up with it, and then pick it up somewhere down the line when they've added something that you're looking for on that roadmap.
I haven't actually looked at the roadmap. I should definitely do that. But I have a few thoughts in this game too. I couldn't stop laughing whilst I've been playing this game. And I'll explain why. I feel like this game can be really hilarious, but also so stupid at the same time. And I feel like this is the foundations of a really, really good VR game. So let's start off with a few things. It looks great. Just like how you said, I've only obviously been playing on the Quest, and it looks fantastic. It looks really sharp. The buggies look sharp. The courses look pretty good. I mean, sometimes there's not many art elements, but they look solid. Really good colors. They pop. Really great. Obviously, I've been seeded whilst playing as being in a buggy, and there's no motion sickness whatsoever. I might have played like 6 or 7 of the chapter races. Like I went through quite a few things because it was making me laugh so much, so I wanted to continue. And so you had the buggy on, you're in the buggy, so you've got like the frame of the car around you, which probably helps with the motion sickness. But then in the settings, you can actually turn on helmet. So you can put like a helmet on. And I put that on too, just because I wanted to make it feel a bit more authentic. But I think that also just adds to the lack of motion sickness. Like it reduces it as well. Yeah, I put the helmet on. I thought the helmet would look cool. And I've actually really liked having the helmet on. I felt like I'm
interesting.
I'm more into it. So it drives well, but my gosh, you're slipping everywhere because there is no traction whatsoever. There is no traction control on any of these cars. When I say any of these cars, you only have one.
It's sort of the point, though.
That's what I mean. Like it's kind of sort of the point, but at the same time, it takes so much getting used to. So as you're saying, when you're in the race, you're slipping and sliding. As soon as you brake once, you realize that you're slipping and sliding. You may be hitting the side, and then you have to reset and such. And you see these ghosts doing the same thing, which is hilarious to me when I see all these ghosts doing. I was like, oh, I'm not also that bad. Like everyone is equally as bad. You do get used to it a little bit, but it would be nice to have a little bit of traction control at least, or maybe a setting where you can turn on like
or upgrades where you get
a little bit of traction where and then maybe the traction depends on the terrain. So you've got a few courses like at the start where it's like on the dirt road or in the forest and such, and your traction should be probably decent on there. But maybe there's one you're in Scotland, I think, and you're on an ice mountain, and I can see, fair enough, like if the traction was low on this ice mountain, that would be really fun. But I'd like the traction to be different on each terrain rather than every terrain feels like I'm driving on ice,
slipping
in a way. It made me laugh because like in the Scotland one, when you're driving on the side of the mountain, the amount of times I fell off the mountain, and it just feel like you're about to die right now because you're in VR, you're rolling like round and such. Crashing in this game is hilarious sometimes. There's a course where it has like some ramps, and if you don't take those ramps correctly, you end up spitting out, and it does feel like you're like in a car just crashing.
I avoid them.
Yeah, I don't think they're a good idea, to be honest. But yeah, it's hilarious when you do it. And like I said, even with all those spins and crashing out and falling like whatever 100 feet or whatever to my death, still no real problems in terms of motion sick. So when I say it's like the foundations of the VR game, it's because there's hardly any content in there. There is a career mode, but it's not really a career mode. Like you said, there's just a ton of maps, and you go in one by one to unlock. But it doesn't
It's
feel
sort of
like
how you unlock stuff.
yeah, it doesn't feel like a normal career mode. Like I feel like it would be great if you could race against actual AI. You know, it doesn't have to be like a set of 12, but there's like 3 other ghosts in there, and there could be 3 other like actual AI models. That'd be really cool. Instead, you're just seeing the ghosts slide around like idiots, and it's quite hilarious. It seems like they have multiplayer, and also we haven't. I mean, me and you haven't tried that together. So they have multiplayer, but not many people are in the lobbies.
And there's a battle mode. I didn't try that at all.
I did not see a battle mode. Maybe that was updated. I've not seen that one in there. But there seems to be like a bi-weekly or a monthly online tournament that happens as well with leaderboards that they've got in. But what I would say is and if the developers are listening to this, one, having like a met mode to put traction control would be great. Even if it's not in like the competitive modes, multiplayer and such, that's fine. But I think that would make it more fun. AI drivers, if possible. Now I haven't seen the roadmap, so just keep that in mind. And also the ability to customize your car. That would be great, because right now you just have the one car and it's red, and I haven't gone through the career enough, but at the moment I don't see any option to potentially customize your car, maybe make it just a different color, for example. Everyone seemed to be, as a ghost, have the same red car. So I don't know if that's already in there, but I don't see any option to customize, and this seems like a great option to kind of like completely customize your car, like you could do in Dig VR, where you can customize your digger. It would be cool if you could definitely change the paint job on that. Also, if the devs are listening, what I would recommend to them, if they haven't already, is go get MotorStorm on the PlayStation 3, because this game is in a way quite similar. Get a copy wherever you can find it for PS3, or do whatever you can and basically copy it. Like, the foundations are there for Exo Cars to be a really good MotorStorm-like game, but it's way too bare bones right now to recommend. It's like more of an early access game. But
here you go.
Yeah,
Dan. So December 12th, tuning system, enhance your buggy performance, and new customization options.
Nice.
December 23rd, new biome with 3 unique tracks, Christmas event, achievement system implementation on Quest and Steam. January to February, new multiplayer mode, TPA, a new buggy type, different physics and driving experience, and next major event. February to March, new customization options, and a new biome with 3 unique tracks.
So get this game, like you said, maybe in February, March, unless you want to just get it and just play around with the features as it updates, because it seems like that's exactly what we're asking for. Amazing stuff, but really fun game. I had a great time. It was hilarious, but is bare bones.
I will stipulate also that I've heard people who have tried it with the wheel have not had good experiences with that, so perhaps stick with the controllers. Personally, I use the joystick to control. So
I've done it with the.
Did you do the?
I've done the actual like.
I got no. I think that's why you're slipping and sliding. Honestly.
Yeah, that's true. I'm controlling it like an actual wheel. It's fun though. It's really fun, and it looks really good. All right, Samson, this is a very long part, so just
maybe. Do you want me to save my squashy night for the next pod?
Yeah. Let's save the squashy night. Is there any
Stay tuned for the night. I had a 1-on-1 first to 4 game wins against Noble Squashy, friend of the show, YouTube channel, YouTube / I think Noble Squashy. Yeah.
Perfect.
And yeah, where you can find out next episode who won that evening and what games we played.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. We'll save that for the next time then. All right, that will do for this Mega Part 1. Mega to Part 2, no, not Mega. We'll try and keep it quicker. We'll go through the games out this week and any game updates as well before we get into Part 3 with the interview. So we will see you then.
Hey, we know public lobbies in VR games can be a bit toxic. feel a bit empty at times. That's why we created the Let's Talk Oculus Discord, a friendly community that you can join for multiplayer meetups, general VR chat, the game, and chat about VR, fitness motivation, and there's even a very impressive 3D printing channel. Join over 100 of our community members in the Let's Talk Oculus Discord for free. The link is right in the description.
All right, welcome back to part 2, where we're going to go through the game updates and games out this week. Go for it, Samson. Let's go through the game updates together. You start off.
Let's do it. Thank you. Metro Awakening VR. They are addressing some community feedback on two-handed weapons, left-handed locomotion, and arachnophobia mode, as we talked about earlier. And there you have it. Dan, what's the next update?
The Light Brigade, update 4.0, adds a Saboteur class, a gunslinger armed with an SW500 revolver, and a timepiece that clocks and deploys a dead ringer for stealthy escapes. It also adds Memorial Grounds, a procedurally generated world set across a war-torn military crypt. Samson.
Dan, DigiGod's Kaiju has an update where they added giant mechs, kaiju, new weaponized planes, a new rocket launcher, and destructible items. Not exactly sure what type of game this is, but I did see it in the store just this week, and I was like, this kind of looks interesting. But I know nothing else other than the fact that on the store it looks appealing.
Fair enough. Airspace Defender gets an early access update with new visuals, color palettes, and 2 new turrets to play. And that's pretty much it.
Dan, I think that one's $15 these days. Golf Plus released a new course, Jumeirah. Aunt Jumeirah, not the syrup. This is Jumeirah, the golf course, the Earth golf course.
It's actually Jumeirah Beach. It's in Dubai. I have been there. I've not been.
That got auto-corrected from beach to Earth?
I think so, yeah.
That's hilarious. And then I Ron Burgundy it again. It's fantastic. Dan, I'm reading the next one.
Go on.
All right. Synth Riders, they got a whole new UI. So they recently changed sort of how the game looks in, like how the app looks in the store. Or in your system UI, and now everything's sort of updated and looks futuristic. Looks very cool. Nice. So make sure if you have Synth Riders, you update that.
All right, I'll go check that out. I haven't tried that one out myself. Astro Hunters added new weapon attachments, and since that was a quick one, Les Mills XR Body Combat also added monthly missions, global workout challenge, and an exclusive awards.
Project Demigod adds an armory update with new weapons, melee weapons, and mod support.
And that is the game updates. Moving forward, let's talk about the games out this week. Samson, I'll go first this time.
How about you go first?
We're going to talk about Walltown Wonders. Walltown Wonders is a mixed reality game that turns your living room into a lively miniature town. Help colorful characters build their world through fun quests and mini games, unlocking unique buildings and surprises along the way. Mixed reality, cozy life sim city builder. Dive into a world where you will experience MR like never before, with unique interactions and highly detailed environments. Innovative hand tracking and interactions. Experience the magic of interacting with your townspeople with just your bare hands and maybe bare feet, adding a new level of realism and immersion to gameplay. Gentle and relaxing gameplay. Play, discover, and nurture your town at your own pace in the tranquil and soothing environment, perfect for unwinding and relaxation. And finally, endless customization and exploration. Collect countless new looks and customization options for your city through gameplay and exploration, ensuring each experience is uniquely tailored to your preferences. As you kind of mentioned. I will say
I haven't played hand tracking yet.
But the stuff that you said in terms of playing at your own pace and sharp and like a lot of stuff that they said is kind of what you kind of described.
I nailed it. You could say.
Yeah, you nailed it. This next game, Samson, might not be as cozy. But what is it?
Well, I might not nail this one, but I'm going to take a jab at it. In Thrill of the Fight 2, where you can jab, dodge, and sweat your way to the top of the boxing world, the undisputed champion of VR boxing games returns with a stunning fully reimagined sequel to the original breakout hit. The Thrill to Fight 2 delivers a truly authentic boxing experience that may be the closest you'll ever get to stepping into the ring. Multiplayer Early Access. The Thrill to Fight 2 is an early access title, which is currently multiplayer only. More single-player content, training, and other features will and polish are planned with the goal of exceeding the capability, realism, and variety of the original title. The game's content and features are subject to change during development, and we are welcome your feedback while we are building the game. The game's price may increase as more content is added, so get in while you can.
It's $15 if anyone's interested. Samson, looks like we need to have a couple fights.
Like a fight night, LTO fight night.
Exactly. We'll stream it on Netflix as well. By Grit Alone is next. It is an action horror shooter combining frantic combat with harrowing sci-fi anthology story. Okay. Uncover mysteries and endure the relentless alien hordes of this handcrafted linear narrative campaign focusing on constant action and cosmic dread. You are marooned in a bizarre unknown dimension filled with ancient derelicts and ravenous aliens. This is really testing my lips, to be honest. Uncover the mysteries of the dead as you move ship to ship, slaughtering your way through hordes of brain-starved horrors. Fight to survive death crawling over the walls, ceilings, and floors. Disgusting insectoids and flesh constructs stalk you. If the swarm doesn't take you, then deathstrap packages, rogue AIs, or hard vacuum world. This doesn't sound fun at all.
You're crushing it. You're crushing it.
VR action horror focusing on deep lore, intense violence, and cosmic dread. A linear narrative campaign designed for the constant tension and action and immersion, heavily inspired by Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, and Bioshock. There is no loading screens. There is no inventory. There is unlimited ammo. You need to scale and speed to rip through the ferocious swarms and get out of this corrupted hellhole in one piece. By Grit Alone, you will survive. Okay.
There you have it.
Unlimited ammo. I can get behind that.
That's where you're sold. I like it.
That's where I'm sold. Unlimited ammo and not needing to worry about things. Interesting. This game actually on the trailer itself. It's definitely an indie game, but it's got a cartoony art style against it. I'm curious to see how this one reviews. It's around $25 or so, $20 I would say in USD. It looks very dark. It's a very dark game. But yeah, looks really fun. It seems like it's more of a leaderboard chasing thing, but I don't know.
It doesn't sound like a light game by Grit Alone. So
no, it's just it's just more of a bullet hell, to be honest. But yeah, what else we got?
Next up, we got Bounce Arcade. Enter the machine and play pinball like you've never seen before in Bounce Arcade. Wield your hands as paddles, guiding the ball through 4 immersive pinball worlds, each with their own challenges and surprises. Nostalgic and frantic, elements of classic pinball join all new skills for a fast-paced arcade experience. Trigger the guide to nudge the ball where you want it to go and activate. Attract to magnetically pull the ball back to you. And for the ultimate skill shots, if you can master them, Bounce Arcade.
Does this appeal to you? Yeah, because you love your pinball.
It sounds like so appealing. I want a banana.
Okay. Very well. It seems like a pinball game, but then when you watch the trailer, it kind of feels like you're inside the pinball machine. If anything, like you are literally inside the pinball machine. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be curious.
In the machine.
I feel like this one's right up your alley, so I'd be curious to hear what you say about it later. Okay.
Alley's more of a bowling term if you're trying to get something with that's to pinball.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
I guess they are alleys. I don't know. It's right up my ramp.
Yeah, I'm not the one with puns. You're the one with puns in this this LTO podcast here. Okay.
And the one with buns.
Final one, Squingle. As you know, Squingle is the ultimate mixed reality 3D puzzle game. Navigate glass-like mazes called Squingles, guiding orbs and avoiding edges and collecting points. Discover why it is critically acclaimed 5-star masterpiece. Launching with 100 levels and more added over time, levels grow complex, featuring tighter spaces and new challenges. Each maze is stunning, morphing sculpture, offering an unmatched visual experience in mixed reality or immersive modes. It features level add-ons with new puzzle modes coming soon. Mixed reality, augment or put it in immersed mode in VR. Challenge mode, time trials and global leaderboards. Hand tracking support. Room and mini scale, play big or small. And race your ghost. Beat your best times. And with that, Samson, that kind of bodes well to saying goodbye to part 2, really, and going in straight to part 3, which we have the interview with Squingle itself. And anything else to say to everyone before we wrap up this part?
This is a good episode for those with a long commute.
Yeah, it's gonna be 2 hours long at least. All right. Enjoy the interview with Benjamin Outram and Rodolfo from Viral Games, and we will see you next week for another great podcast. Yeah,
Dan, is this our last episode before Thanksgiving though? American Thanksgiving, not that Canadian
no.
one. That one's some other time. Because it's next Thursday, Dan.
I guess technically, but for the Patreons, the next week's
episode. Listen, I think about everybody, not just the people paying
and then
us, okay?
For the non-Patrons, it'll be out the day after Thanksgiving. So have a lovely Thanksgiving.
Okay. Those of you not in the Patreon, happy Thanksgiving. Yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
No, wait. No, this is the one not next week.
No.
So I nailed it. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, there we go. We will see you around the Thanksgiving break. Have a nice 4 days for those who celebrate it. Enjoy all the VRing that you can get if you are having a big VR session. But yeah, that'll do for part 2. In part 3, as mentioned, we'll have the interview. So we'll see you in part 3. Perfect. Let's Talk Oculus is available on all good podcast platforms and some rubbish ones as well. If you want to see the video version, it's available on YouTube and Spotify. And also, if you love us so much, then consider throwing us $1 at patreon.com/Let's Talk Oculus. Back to the show. All right, welcome back to part 3 of Let's Talk Oculus. Obviously, you can see if you're on the video call that me and Samson are joined by, first of all, Rodolfo, your second time on the show from VRL Games. How you doing? How's things going?
Man, doing amazing. I think since we last spoke on VRider's launch, which was in June, so much I think has happened in the industry overall, which has at least taken even me by surprise a little bit. For Viral Games when we began. Obviously, we knew Meta was pushing on the hardware, but I had some hesitations if the other big hardware players would also continue building, because it seemed Meta had such a leg up in just building these marketplaces. But the last 2 months, 2 months, all these other players keep building technology and hardware for VR, XR, AR, which is incredible, because the hardware manufacturers they're not staying behind. They really believe that this is a huge part of the future, how people will socialize and get entertainment. So exciting! It has been busy times.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, we're very excited today because we're going to talk about a very different game to V-Rider, one that will get your adrenaline pumping with V-Rider, but this one, I guess, kind of just in a different way. We're also joined by Dr. Ben Outram, who is the creator of the hit puzzle game Squingle. It's came out a few years ago, but there's a brand new edition that's coming out on the Quest platforms this week. Ben, it's great to have you on the show. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, I know it's a cliched question that, like, you probably do a few podcast interviews and such, but we got to start there. And, like, for those of you who never heard of Squingle, can you give us like a bit of a brief description of what it is, so people can know?
So yeah, it's a question to me, I guess. So Squingle is a sort of it's a mixed reality puzzle game. You have to guide revolving orbs through a series of increasingly complex 3D maze puzzles in 3D space, while being taken on a sort of journey through cosmic evolution by this sort of goddess character who sort of guides you along the way. It's a game that I think most people find initially captivates them visually. It's a very visually unique and interesting game with a lot of interesting refractive and iridescent kind of qualities to the very surreal visual style to the game. But then even more than that is the gameplay aspect, which is it's kind of like an inspired by juggling and flow toys kind of mechanic, where you have to guide these revolving orbs. So there's a sort of timing and skill and spatial movement element to it. It's quite a casual game, I would say, but it's a game that is easy to play and easy to get into, but is quite difficult to master. So, I guess you can compare it to other puzzle games in that regard, a bit like sort of Tetris or, some of those kind of arcade games, or even a game like Beat Saber, which is obviously, this game isn't a rhythm action game, but it has some timing and guided movement elements. I know Ben Lang from Rotovr always likes to talk about guided movement as a design philosophy in game and virtual reality and XR design. And so he's done several pieces on design language in games, including games like Beat Saber. I would say Squingle sort of fits into that category as well, which is one of its sort of unique points that I think lends itself to success on an XR kind of platform.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Go on, Samson.
I do appreciate how you can sit down and you can get lost in these puzzles, or you can sit down and be like, all right, I'm going to play one puzzle and I'll be out of this in just a minute or two. But wanted to ask about, like, how did this game come about? Because it reminds me of those childhood games, like with the ring and trying to get it around like the pipe without touching it. If anybody's familiar with that game,
Beep Wire, I think it's called. Yeah.
But how did this game come about, and how long did it take for you to go from in idea inception to seeing it in the headset?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, that one, and I guess I can answer that in sort of multiple ways. But the beep wire thing was something that as a child I was kind of, I think a lot of children, when you come across that, you kind of find it interesting. And I think I made one with my dad in the workroom at some point, and taught me a bit about electronics and that kind of thing. But I would say that more than that, there are other sort of inspirations behind it. Like, when I was a child, I was quite obsessed with mazes in general, and I used to wake up quite early in the morning before my parents would wake up, and they wouldn't let me interact with them until like 9 a.m. in the morning. So I would go down and be extremely bored, get an A4 piece of paper and just sort of draw a very intricate maze. And I got extremely good at drawing mazes by the age of about 5 or something. They were so difficult that that the adults didn't have the patience to solve them. But I was quite proud about that fact. So fast forward, and I'm still making mazes, I guess. But that's just one influence. There are so many influences in the game. I would say, as I mentioned already, juggling as a sort of skill. I've always been fascinated by juggling as a sort of an art form, as a kind of way of enjoying getting into a flow state, hanging out with friends, listening to music. It's kind of like a dance. It's very creative, but it's very much a skill, and it really hones you into a flow state. And as soon as I came across virtual reality, back in the days with the DK2, I was doing a post in Japan at the time. I spent 4 years in Japan overall, but I was doing a postdoc there, and came across virtual reality and the DK2. And my first thought with it was like, it's perfect for something like juggling or flow toys or poi. If you know what poi are, those things where you have a ball on the end of strings and you swing them around, trying not to hit yourself. And I just thought it would be perfect for that kind of an experience. And I spent quite a long time prototyping different ideas related to juggling and flow toys, and including poi. And I created 2 different juggling prototypes, completely different ends of the spectrum of what a juggling in VR game could be like. One was more like a rhythm action, copy the movements game, and another was more of like a juggle yourself virtual balls game. But just doing those things, like neither of them were particularly compelling or successful enough to turn into some sort of commercial product. And part of the reason for that is that juggling is very difficult, juggling 3 balls, and also you just don't have the degrees of freedom in the haptic feedback that you get with real juggling. Like obviously with real juggling, you can feel the balls and the weight and everything like that. And with virtual reality, you're limited by, okay, you've got 6 degree of freedom controllers, which is crucial and great, but you don't have those sort of haptic sensations. You've just got vibration, which is a very sort of less dimensions than all of the tactile impression you get of juggling balls on your hand. So, doing a lot of those taught me a lot about interaction design, the affordances of VR, and I really wanted to distill the feeling and joy of learning, of getting into a flow state of creativity, of creating and learning new things and experiencing topology and physics in that way, like that you'd get with juggling, and translate that into an experience that was more accessible in virtual reality. And so, Squingle kind of came after a lot of failed or semi-successful prototypes of similar kind of things in virtual reality.
The flow state is really something. As someone who loves rhythm games and reaching that flow state in some of those and other puzzlers, I do appreciate the flow state that you can get in Squiggle, where you're just like, I'm feeling those, the balls rotating. You can speed them up or slow them down, and all of a sudden it feels like they're like an appendage to you, as opposed to you controlling them. They just feel like you're really in control. But I guess I just want to bounce one to Rodolfo. How did you find Ben and Squingle?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story. So going back to how Ben so eloquently described Squingle, I think it's really interesting. At one point I read something that Steve Jobs had said, which was, I think at Stanford he took one of these classes, which was more of like an art class, and then that seed stayed in his mind for like a decade before he started doing the Mac, where he started introducing those abilities for you to do some coding and things utilizing color, which really changed the way that PCs were done, because historically they were kind of one color, really boring. So I think the more you learn about Ben's story to get to Squingle, it becomes really fascinating. And I think all these experiences he had, some that I didn't even know until what he just described, the stuff he was doing with his dad, I think those things stayed in his brain and just kind of added to this creation of Squingle. He was in Japan for a while, and I'm sure he saw that incredible Japanese gaming culture that exists there. Nintendo Wii, maybe Namco's Pac-Man. I mean, all these things that are very unique to Japan, where gaming is really, it's an artistry and design is important. Then his time in India, understanding, I'm assuming, more about the flow state and meditation and just the concept of maybe different realms and not just the earthly that we all see. His kind of education and understanding how just LCDs, work. So I think of a mix of all these experiences came together in this creation of Squingle, and I think anytime that happens, magic can occur. And and going back to your question, Samson. So I didn't find Squingle the person who founded Squingle is one of the co-founders of Varo Games, which I'm gonna kind of like, I already told him this, but I would like him to be known in the industry as the game whisperer. So Massimo is a very unique individual who his experience is truly fascinating in gaming. He had his first gaming store, retail store in Italy when I think he was 17. He'll correct me. 17. Then he first store didn't succeed so much. He opened another one which was very successful. Then he got together with Joe Victor, which is our third co-founder, who had I think 10, 11 stores. They got together, created this, kind of small conglomerate. Then EB Games that became GameStop purchased those guys. They grew the stores to 500 games. So they've seen everything from console to mobile to VR and things like that. So Massimo, it's a very unique way of finding like diamonds. I mean, at least that's what we believe. And when he was doing this deep work of scouting what could be one of these incredible puzzle games, because if you look at Varo Games portfolio, V-Rider was a racing game, but if you look at puzzle is one of the most playable genres in the world in terms of gaming, from Candy Crush to Tetris to all these different things, because it crosses over many demographics and ages and things like that. And when Massimo saw Squingle and then obviously got in contact with Ben, and these guys started really getting close together, he was just like, wow, this game has been kind of in, I would say, beta development for a few years. MR and XR was kind of maturing. The headsets were not that great 3 years ago. Now headsets are getting amazing. A few years from now, we're going to have this very interesting and I think accessible smart glasses. So when we looked at Squingle, it was like, wow, artistry-wise, these puzzles they still amaze me, because if you're playing in mixed reality mode, you plant them in the physical environment. You can go around this puzzle, you can rotate the puzzle, you can zoom in, so you're actually immersed inside the puzzle or not. You can make it not miniature, but pretty small, or you can make it massive in terms of size. So it gives you this optionality of playing the puzzle game in an immersive way that is actually like unbelievable. There's nothing like it in the world today. And then we started getting to know Ben, and as you heard just him speak a bit now, he's really smart, and I think Squingle is one of his life's creations. I think it's one of his life's creations, and for us, for just loving developers, finding this mix of amazing game, incredible developer, that's how we found them. So from our side, we really owe this to Massimo finding Ben, and then Ben trusting us to be part of this journey with him. So that's a long answer, but I wanted to mention those things.
That's fair enough. So kind of swing it back to you, Ben, because Rodolfo obviously talked about like you bringing like life experience and such into this game. Obviously, you spoke about building mazes when you were just 5 years old, creating mazes and such, and I want to talk about, in terms of Squingle, of like, on the surface level, one could say, okay, you could maybe bring this in like a 2D environment. Maybe it could be a console game, a PC game, and such like that. But in VR, there's so much more to it. Let's talk about the multi-sensory kind of aspect of it, where it's not just visually striking; it's also the audio and the like the space that you're moving around. Like, can Squingle, like, is Squingle so suited for VR? Like, is this game, when you went into VR for the first time and you were like, this is the only way to do it, I need to bring all of these interactive sensory aspects of it, because I have that at my arsenal when it comes to VR?
The whole synthesis of all of these things that you're talking about has come together very much over a long period of of time, I would say. But yeah, Squingle is definitely a game that can't really be done in 2D. I mean, there is a similar game, Kuru Kuru In, on the Game Boy Advance. When I was a kid, I used to play that game where you have to guide a revolving stick through 2D mazes, but using a D-pad. So it's very, and I was addicted to that game as a kid. So yeah, I mean, definitely there's some inspiration there, but in terms of Squingle, and all of the other qualities of it, you mentioned the spatial audio. There's, it's really about trying to think about the affordances of virtual reality. And when I was studying, doing a postdoc in Tokyo, the virtual reality, I read a lot of papers and went to academic VR conferences, right? And even before the first Meta Quest came out, or it was Oculus Quest back then, there'd already been several decades of virtual reality research into how to create compelling ways of locomotion, what makes people feel sick, rotation, linear movement, affordances, like how we judge distance. There's like 14 different ways the human brain and visual system judges a distance. So having a deep understanding of those aspects, and then really diving into virtual reality and thinking, what is it that makes this media technology unique, and what can you do with this media technology that you cannot do with any other media technology? And when you get a new media technology come in, it's always people start to try and just simulate the last media technology and just translate it onto the new one. So whether it's like cinema, you'd translate, you literally film like theater productions, put that on the screen, or like it always comes. And with virtual reality, we've also seen the same thing. People just go, okay, it's a gaming platform, let's just get all our gaming expertise, everything we know that has worked in gaming industry, shooting first person shooters and all the different kind of gaming, and just kind of cajole that into a virtual reality setting. The problem you get when you do that, and obviously there are studios and things which have tried to tack on additional features that make use of, like if you look at Half-Life Alyx, for example, it's a first-person shooter, but it also has 3D puzzles in it, and the fact that you can move around and reload your weapon and stuff. Sort of, but I consider that like not trying to diss Half-Life Alyx. It's a great game, but obviously, like I feel like that's kind of a tack on to an existing game mechanic, which already works well on a 2D screen. So looking at virtual reality, you've got to think about the affordances of that. You've got 6 degree of freedom controllers, your head's 6 degree of freedom tracked, you've got stereoscopic screens. So all of that lends itself really to creating a game which is where all the action's happening right in front of you. The closer it is to you, the better your convergence, and you get sort of a convergent sense of 3D. So you want stuff to be within several meters, otherwise it just looks like a two-dimensional game that you just... So you want to get that dimensionality so that you have that access to those degrees of freedom in your game mechanic and give that sense of control. And likewise with the stereoscopic images, you can create effects like iridescence, which is where each eye sees a slightly different color, usually based on the angle of incidence onto like a beetle or a butterfly or something, where the way the surface interacts with the light puts different frequencies of light in different directions. So your eyes see different frequencies and you get that kind of shimmery sense. And you can emulate that very trivially in virtual reality if you just understand a bit the maths of it, and then you can just program that into your shaders and create everything iridescent. And in Squingle, everything's iridescent, but in other games, people don't really make use of that, right? So there's a big aspect of that, understanding the affordances of VR, really building a mechanic and building a concept on top of those new mechanics that can't be done on any other medium.
I have noticed that the things look so unique in Squingle, and I'm glad you said that, because I was wondering. I obviously am not a game developer and couldn't really describe what I was seeing, but it is like everything does have that beetle shimmer to it.
That's exactly right. I mean, there's a lot of there's the shimmery, there's also the refractive quality. If you're playing in virtual reality, you see this sort of refractive quality of the environment through the maze puzzles that look a bit like glass. and they all sort of bulge out in nice, interesting ways. And to sort of give that sense of touch, one of the really hard things in VR is to give a sense of touch. You've got the haptics, but that's like an AC vibration, whereas when you touch something, it gives you a DC or a directional force. You can't do that with a vibration. But you can try and use something called sensory substitution, which is where you take other senses, other sense modalities, and then you try to map them onto your sense of touch so that you can create directionality without a directional force. So in Squingle, when you feel the vibration when you're coming close to the edge, and if you touch the edge, you take damage, right? So as you go towards the edge, you see a mismatch between where your hand is and where the balls are. It's like a spring mechanic. So that gives you a sense of direction, a sort of unnerving sense that you're in the wrong place and that you want to go back the other way. And then at the same time, you've got particles coming out the opposite direction to where you're touching. It now incorporates this spatial audio so that you hear this drone sound when you're near the edge. And it's relative to the balls in terms of spatially, but then it maps that relative to you. So when you're touching the wall on the left, you hear the spatial audio from the left, and it gives you this extremely immersive, audible, spatial audio additional sense of touch where you're at. So all of these different modalities for visual, haptic, audio, and they're all pointing to give you the right information so that you know how to mitigate whatever's going wrong so that you don't hit the edge. And I think that, is quite a unique. I've not experienced that so much done well in other games.
And the amazing thing about, understanding all the complexities in building it it's kind of completely detached from when you actually play, because when you play, all these things seem just natural. And it's the game in itself is like super fun to play. It's entertaining. There's some gamification with it. There's leaderboard. So the way I think this game plays is that I don't know, 12-year-old, 13-year-old can play it and be like, oh, this is fun, this. But you can have an older person who just loves the game because of the artistry of it. Like, what is the next? We call the levels squingles. What's the next squingle? How does it even look like? And then the other part is, everybody likes a little competition. So we have these leaderboards. And for me, as I think we spoke last time, Dan and Samson, I'm not a VR native person. So for me, because I think what happens is if you're a VR native person and you're all in, most likely you're gonna experiment many different games. But I like my perspective as an addition to this because I'm not VR. So the way when I play a game in my mind is, can this be a game that anyone who buys a new headset can put on the headset and play a game like Squingle, and will that game kind of wow them on the possibilities that this medium provides? So, people joke sometimes, of entry drugs or entry whatever, like the first thing into getting into something. I really do feel that Squingle is one of these first try game for even newbies that are just buying their whatever $299 3S. I think it's one of those games that you have to play it, and then it kind of opens your horizon to how fun and entertaining and immersive this platform can really be. Because sometimes if you give someone who's just buying their headset a game that it's really complex in understanding or makes them motion sick, or it's tough. So I think Squingle is one of these games that will be an entry point for a lot of people to just start experiment. And there's other games obviously in the genre, but I think it's one of those games that, man, once you try, because here at the office we bring a lot of people who have never put a headset on before. Investors and friends and things like that. And then, Massimo and I and Joe Victor, we kind of watch them as they're first playing, a game. And, we have showed Squingle to a couple of people, even last week, because we finally have like the latest build ready. We launched, Squingle Mini, which is this bite-sized experience of Squingle for like 99 cents. So anyone can basically, it's a buck, can get in there, get the entire experience of Squingle. There's 10 levels plus a bonus level, and they can really get this feel for the game, which is amazing. And then obviously, the full 100 level plus game goes on November 21st officially on Meta, which is amazing. But so I'm excited to see that. We need, I think the industry, the more I went in and I studied it, because I was not from gaming, my partners, obviously, they're all gaming. I was more AI and all of that stuff. When you start understanding what really happened to the industry, where at one point the headsets were not great, people were not having great experiences, content was not. So it might have left maybe some bitter taste in the mouth of those early, because it was early. It's early tech. Anything early. Remember the first cell phones? They were the size of a shoebox. So, but now I think the big exercise, which obviously Meta is doing and others are doing, I think increasingly well, is you just gotta try. You gotta try the new headsets and the content that's being built. So, going back to everything Ben explained on the intricacies of developing this game, Squingle could not be developed to get this kind of experience in any other platform. And I really do think that Ben pushed the limits of the hardware functionality of these headsets and the software to make something really, really cool. So, yeah.
So you mentioned two things there. Sorry, Dan. But the platform, I'm just curious, now that the Quest 3 and 3S are out and Squingle works so well with mixed reality, was mixed reality always on your mind? And I'm sorry to wedge in another question here, but you also mentioned how there's 100 puzzles in the full-on game. Just like, what goes into making, what's your puzzle making process?
Okay, I'll answer the first one first. So originally, mixed reality wasn't really a thing. I didn't really anticipate that, the buzz that was going to come with that wave. I developed it first as a virtual reality game, very much so. And then when they made the pass-through available through the API on the Quest 2, so you could get the grayscale pass-through. And I thought, it's a bit of a gimmick, who's going to want to do that? But then as soon as I tried, I think Cubism, Thomas from Cubism implemented it into his game, and I tried Cubism in augmented reality or whatever, mixed reality, and it blew my mind. And I was like, okay, I need to. Squingle was perfect for this, because Squingle, unlike a lot of VR games where it's all about the environment out there, you can't do that in AR. But Squingle is obviously using that space in front of you, like I was describing. So you can just swap out the background, which is just there as an environment anyway. It's not functional to the gameplay. And then it's a perfect augmented reality experience. And with the new features that we've done, like built towards this, because these guys at Viral Games, they really have been recognizing that mixed reality is the next big thing. Obviously, Meta's been putting a lot of money behind it. It's creating a lot of buzz, and all these new headsets are targeting that. Everyone's very excited about it. And so we really wanted to sort of hone in the experience on the mixed reality side of Squingle. And so now it's got this amazing sort of it's different stages of it. When the goddess comes, the lights dim in your room and you go slightly blue, and they give you this very ethereal sense and feeling. And so there's a lot of tweaks that have just to create that augmented reality, mixed reality experience much more deeply. So that's just to answer your first question. And to answer this, go on. Sorry,
before we get, I just got to follow up on that question. We'll come back to the other one. It's in a way surprises me a little bit, because Squingle feels like it's so suited to mixed reality. We just spoke about with you and obviously Rodolfo just there, where with all of these aspects, spatial audio, the refraction when you're in VR and such, all of these little bits that you've added in, where some people might not think about it and such, it adds to the realism and then the acceptance in your brain with all of these elements. So that's why when it comes to mixed reality, it's even more impressive, because this kind of object, if this, like the Squingle, shall we say, or the goddess that comes in, if they were actually in your room, like without the VR headset, you would imagine it will feel exactly how it would feel as it does in the headset, like pretty accurately. And it's you being in mixed reality, sometimes you lose the immersiveness, because obviously you can see your surroundings fully, but this one, like you can sit on your couch, or you're definitely getting up, to be honest, with Squingle. I know you can move it around, but I always like getting up and
I prefer the
actually
couch, but some people prefer the room scale. Rodolfo, like Massimo prefers the room scale, where it's kind of like puts it to 75% scale, and then it's a really like full body room scale thing. But I'm more of a person, I like to sit on my couch, like relax back, and then
Fair enough.
do it in small scale. So it really depends on the person.
It depends on the person, yeah.
But you bring up a really interesting point, right, which is this sense of presence and immersion in VR. And from a technical perspective, there's a lot of research that's been done into this. And immersion comes from when you have multiple sensory modalities all giving consistent information about an objective world out there. So, obviously the real world is constantly giving us a feedback that there's an objective world out there, or at least it's very convincing. Maybe we're in a simulation, but like, when you touch a table, you hear a noise and you feel a feedback. And when you see someone speak, you hear the voice, and when you speak, they react, and everything reacts. When you move your head, your optical field of view changes, and virtual reality can simulate some of that stuff really well. Like as you move your head, the image updates. But when you've got mixed reality, that adds a whole nother layer, because you're actually seeing your real world that you're used to, and it's real, so it's not virtual stuff that you're actually looking at. And then, in addition, all of those features that I've mentioned, like the sensory inputs, the lighting, the spatial audio, the way the thing deforms, and the haptic vibration, all of that corresponds to a reality that's constructed. And as Rodolfo said, I can talk about it in like these very technical terms that might just lose people a bit, but ultimately what it means is, in terms of the experience, is that there's a singular experience that your brain just intuitively understands, that it intuitively knows, because you're borrowing all of the things that we've evolved with as humans to deal with the world and to understand and feel like we're in the world and be as connected and present in the world, which is so important for our life and survival and interaction with other people. And you're co-opting that in taking account of the affordances of the technology that you're using, the media technology that you're deploying on, and trying to sort of co-opt that to create a singular experience that people find extremely intuitive and enjoyable.
Yeah, and like Rodolfo said, in terms of like new VR players and such, like as soon as I played or started Squingle, I haven't played it from back in the day. I've only kind of played the one that's coming out and such. And as soon as I played it for like 2 minutes, I already realized like my partner's perfect for this. So she doesn't really play. She hardly plays VR. She's played the odd walkabout course now and again, probably like twice a year. But she plays a little bit of games, but she's definitely, I won't call her a gamer by any stretch of the imagination, but she loves puzzles. And as soon as I went in, especially in mixed reality, because I think for people new to VR, being immersed fully in VR, it's kind of hard to get your grasp around it, and you need some time to get used to it. Where straight into mixed reality, just as you just mentioned there with Ben, because all of the senses are kind of working and you just accept it, it's much easier to put someone brand new and they can see the maze in front of you in their own play space, and they can immediately go and play the game and kind of get into a flow state because of all the sensors working in cohesion as well. So yeah, I think it's a perfect game. Just like I was going to basically just agreeing with your point, Rodolfo, where I think it's a perfect game for newbies alike as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see it grow, and then I think the game has so much room for growth, and we have some plans for some very cool DLCs next year. And I think in some ways, obviously that's always a dream, but I believe dreams start. I think we all do from a little idea that then keeps going. I really do think that Squingle could become synonymous to puzzle in kind of mixed reality. I think it's totally possible. that would be a lot of excitement to see. You know, I've always been a kind of fan of Candy Crush, because there was one phase in my life where I had this AI startup, and it was just so much pressure that you know, Candy Crush became my my
Your
escape.
outlet there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my outlet. I would just play that thing. It was entertaining, fun. You felt some sense of control and accomplishment. And I think Squingle has some of that right now, which I think will be really fun, and we'll continue developing that. So in many ways, you know, if I put on my kind of viral game CEO hat, I I know that, you know, this game, you know, could future proof the puzzle genre within kind of this gaming space, because you know, we won't go into this right now, Ben, because I don't want you to spill all your secrets of all these different levels, you know, you're thinking of creating or gamification things, but we will in due time. But it's one of those games that can just keep on growing, because you can incorporate so many things to it. You could do um, yeah. I won't give details, but it's pretty exciting. You know, the roadmap that I think is
Yeah, there's a lot
there.
of exciting stuff, I think,
Yeah, a lot of
next year.
exciting stuff for the roadmap
But
of Swingle. You know.
But one thing I'd like to put in there, Rodolfo, as well, is just that, you know, I came kind of with this. It was kind of a fully formed game, I guess, and it was like sort of the pre-release version of this game, and it had a lot of those aspects that I've been talking about, those features. But really, what partnering then with this publisher, Viral Games, and they bring so much like retail experience where they understand the market, and because I come from more of an academic background, as you can probably tell, like listening to me. You know, I don't really get the market as such. Yeah. I understood all this about juggling and affordances and VR and stuff. But then when it comes to sort of the user experience, like how to create an experience that is accessible, that you control the process, and like you need to sort of hand walk people a little bit and have the value of like the tutorialization and how all the elements of the game fit together to create a singular, very accessible experience that doesn't create too much choice or confusion in the player, but nonetheless is suited to multiple levels of ability. You know, the Viral have really been instrumental in bringing that sort of focus and develop to the game up to this point. And it's kind of spurred me to watch a lot of YouTube videos about game design, where people are analyzing like Nintendo games and Mario games and how all of those things fit together to allow, like in Mario Wonder, for example, you've got, you know, you can play as Yoshi that doesn't even take damage, right? And it doesn't use power ups. So there's a lot simpler controls. It's really suited to, like, you know, children or whatever. But then you can equally play as the more difficult characters that have a bit more nuance and go for all of the special stars and the difficult things to get, or you can just plow through the main game and you know, and then at the end they've got like the whole special world or whatever. So if you complete the game and you're one of these really expert players, you can always go to the really hard levels. And you know, we've got a lot of borrowing a lot of those sort of things from the gaming industry at large, of what's successful in making a really great user experience into Squingle.
You did nail the tutorializing, as far as the first 10 levels are very much building on one another. Like you're learning I think at first you only have the one orb, and then you get the 2 orbs and they're rotating that you got to get through. And then you're learning about the ball that changes, the blue thing that or changes your rotation. And each one just slowly, once you get the hang of something, you're like, I got it. And then there's one more layer. You're like, okay, now I got that. And then this, et cetera, et cetera. I very much, you mentioned Mario. That's exactly what I think of when I think of just slowly learning one task at a time. First, you learn to run, then you learn to hop, then you get the flower power up, et cetera. And I very much appreciate that. I just want to loop back to my question that I tried to wedge in earlier, but what goes into making a puzzle? Like, do you just like wake up and it came to you in a dream? Do you go through drawing these on a flat surface? Surface or perhaps in VR? Just what's your process?
I have a way of making the levels in VR, right? So the way they're made is I have the balls rotating slower than in the actual game, so I can spend a bit more time and care over it. And then I literally just mime out the level, right? They're just like drawing like in 3D, like in a 3D drawing program like Tilt Brush or something like that, but with these spinning balls. And so I know that the level is possible because I've drawn it with the balls kind of thing. But I mean, that's very simplistic, right? And if you just go to town with that, you're not going to get very far. To actually understand the space, the topological space that is available to you with two balls that are rotating, you really have to spend an awful lot of time in that space, in VR, drawing these levels. And so I would, it was very much a process of spending hours and hours, like you're playing and drawing things and sort of thinking about it, sleeping on it, coming back. And a lot of that design also comes from, I think, a deep understanding of 3-ball juggling in particular, and also staff and poi and other kinds of juggling and circus skill, because those are all about playing with topology and understanding the topological space of temporal and spatial dimensions that you're working in to create new kinds of tricks, new kinds of things. So, a lot of that process from juggling is then transferred into the Squingle space of these two revolving orbs going through space to create these topological levels in temporally and spatially in space. So it's a synthesis of all of that, really. And I think that Squingle with these 100 levels probably maximizes out the design space based on the current level of different modifiers and things that you have in the game, like the ability to change your rotation direction and change your rotation axis and a few other things. So I think for the DLCs that might be coming out, we're going to think of quite a few. The design space is so wide, it's almost infinite. Coming up with new kind of ideas to keep things very fresh and exciting, but maintaining a sort of realistic learning curve.
So I think obviously we've spoken a bit about the game, and there's probably some more that we can talk about here, and we'll probably get into it. But just before we continue further, let's talk about the release this week with this new version of the game. So first of all, for the people who have played Squingle in the past, have maybe played it on Steam or have played the legacy version that was on Quest and such, what do these users have to expect in this new version of the game that's releasing?
So I would describe the new version of the game as like completely remastered, completely updated. It's the levels are the same, more or less. There's a few caveats to that. I've swapped out a few levels and things like that. But in terms of like visually, the game has had a complete overhaul in terms of the graphics. The environments are much more interesting, much more updated. Did a lot more shader work. All of the levels are reskinned to create. The game's sort of been rebalanced and it's darker so that the balls and the lighting seems much more bright and beautiful. There's way more additional particle effects, and it's just visually, it's way more sort of, it was already quite visually, wow, that was a thing that people often sort of remarked about it. But I think now it's like, it's just next level in terms of its visual quality. The audio has completely been remastered, so it's fully spatial audio using the Oculus Spatializer from Meta. So that really makes a huge difference, I think, to the sort of way you experience navigating through these levels. There's obviously been huge changes to the progression system and all of the input and feedback from Viral Games that they've been providing. And they've also injected some funds into it so we've been able to really go out and pay for like a full voice actor to do a really beautiful, calming, like enjoyable, very compelling voice for the narrator and the tutorialization. Now there's a voiceover during the levels that just constantly brings you into the game, makes you feel like you're you're being taken care of. You're in a space. It's for you. It's like somewhere where you can chill, and you're never going to be confused. You're never not going to know what to do. So those are huge changes to the game. And then the progression system as well. So the way you collect points to progress, and so that you're never progressing to a level which you don't have the ability to do yet. Mm-hmm. So, you're always, you're much less likely to get frustrated, if you will. So those are big differences. And then, as I said before, I won't say it again, but the mixed reality has been fully updated with, really refined. So those are, I would say, the primary changes to the game, but the overall effects on the experience, I think, is night and day from the previous version. We've incorporated, before there was like an easy difficulty mode and a difficulty mode, and you could choose which one. And that's like far from ideal. It's much better to just be able to sort of understand the player's ability and let them enjoy it. Anyone enjoy it no matter what. So now we've incorporated that like into the tutorialization at the beginning with the solo orbs, and then like later, if you want to achieve 3 stars on each level, it's gonna be in hard mode the whole way through. But as soon as you take a bit of damage, some of these things like alleviate and make the game much more accessible. So there's a lot of this stuff. I probably shouldn't give all the secret sauce away, should I, Rodolfo? But
not all the secrets.
It's your game, Ben. Don't worry about Rodolfo. It's your game.
It's my game. Yeah. But just so many things. It's a really enjoyable game now.
I really appreciate the fact that when you do the set of 10 Squingles, shall we say, and you don't have enough to proceed to the next area, I do appreciate the fact that you can go back into levels, and if you've collected all of the little orbs and such, you technically don't need to bother trying to get them again. You can just try and complete the like Squingle
stars.
With the start, like without taking damage or something like that. Like I appreciate that aspect, because if, like, say one of the levels is like, right, I need to go through without taking damage so I can get enough stars, but I also have to get the orbs as well, it becomes very difficult for some people to do that, because like, the only way I can get some of these orbs is I feel like I need to take damage or something like that. So I definitely appreciate that aspect of it for sure.
It's the right level of forgivable. You need to have constraints, right? In a game, you need to feel like you're achieving something, but you don't want to have to like feel like you're being made to repeat something that you've already done, that you've mastered, right? So it's like in Squingle, you get 3 stars for not hitting the edge, right? But if you hit the edge, between 2 checkpoints, you lose a star. But if you die and go back, then you get your stars back. So you can. It really is only important that you don't hit the edge on each section, but you can try each section as many times as you like. So it doesn't behold your previous. You know what I mean? Like once you get to a checkpoint, you save those stars at that point, and then you can progress. I've thought very carefully about those things, and what really annoys me in other games, when you get really frustrated, you don't want that.
And I think one thing that I love about the game is just the optionality of how you can play each maze. Meaning, I can play one maze sitting down, and I know I mentioned it, but I want to emphasize it, where I can play like this. For me, as the levels get harder, I can't be sitting down. So I have to make them bigger. I have to be standing up. Yeah. But then what it does is that it feels like every time you're playing the same level, it's like you're having a different experience within the same level. And because it's so appealing and so beautiful, I think that gameplay in itself within each level is very rewarding, because there's some levels that you're like, oh my God, I can't get maybe these 2 orbs to go through all the levels without hitting an edge. But then you play again, but instead of, for me, what still mesmerizes, but it's because I'm somewhat of a newbie to mixed realities, when you just have this Squingle permanence in the physical environment, and you're just playing around it, and you're doing these levels within that play. That's really, for me, it's a lot of fun. And then obviously I'm highly competitive, so the leaderboards are just a lot of fun. Like at my son's soccer game, he had one yesterday. I just have to hold back because he's 6. and I'm and I'm getting like all pumped because it's competition. So I love the leaderboards piece of Squingle as well. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's like a skill, like juggling is a skill, and you can juggle. Some people that juggle, they like to go try and juggle as many balls as they can, or do it as fast as they can, or start doing battle mode where you're battling with other people, or you're trying to learn complicated tricks going around your back or something. Juggling is just this space of possibility, and there's so many different ways to enjoy that. And I've really tried to replicate that into the virtual space with Squingle. So at the beginning you're just learning the mechanics, right? And then there's different way. There's collecting all the items and trying to figure out puzzles. There's trying not to hit the edge. These are different challenges and different ways to approach Squingle. And then of course, like with the Mini, for example, it takes you through all these things in succession as a sort of intro, right? And then that's developed much more fully in the full game. But then once you've perfected all the levels, you've got 10 points on each level by not hitting the edge and collecting all the hard to get green things or whatever. Then you've got the racing aspect of it, and you hit the leaderboards and you try and then it's a completely different way to play the game, and it requires that you've kind of already mastered some aspect of it. And then, the faster you play, the more enjoyable the game comes, in my opinion. It's a real skill that as you develop, like a musical instrument, you enjoy it much more and more and more. So yeah.
You mentioned arena mode and something like this in other multiplayer games, and it begs the question for me: is multiplayer perhaps an idea you have for Squingle? Because I know I've played games like Rocket or the new Spatial Ops game where it's in-person mixed reality multiplayer gaming is sort of the newest frontier in this mixed reality thing. And I'm imagining like a big puzzle or maybe two puzzles in the same room where two people have to sort of compete in some way. I don't know. Is multiplayer an idea you've thought of?
Yeah, I'm not sure really how much I can or should talk about it, but
keep it a secret.
Keep it a secret. But for me, I think that the core concept of Squingle, people need to grok it, and people need to get it. People need to get in there and play it. And I think that I personally think it's that I really love playing my own game. I don't know how many other developers love playing their own game, but it's something like I really do genuinely enjoy. I play always like way faster than the intro speed that you play. But I really want people to enjoy and get to grips with the skill of playing Squingle, just like they might do with Tetris. And then as with Tetris and Tetris Connected, that's something that we really need to look into how successful that's been and what people are saying about it, what people get out of it and what really people enjoy. I think there's a lot in the single player space to really explore and get people familiarized with before going into multiplayer. But I mean, it's definitely a game that lends itself to multiple different ways of playing. And I'm sure that multiplayer would be a fantastic way to play Squingle maybe in the future, but not for now.
Very good. Very good.
I wanted to, we're coming towards the end of this podcast, but I one thing that really kind of resonated with me, and it's just something that normally resonates in a lot of games that do it well, is the sound design, the actual music as well. I find this game with the music of it being so atmospheric, it really like hones in to your focus when you're going through the levels. It feels like something that when I'm like doing some work or whatever, I put on in the background, that kind of focus kind of music. Is the music itself, is that something that you like found externally, like you branched out to an external place, or did you just find a lot of tracks online that you really liked and kind of put them in? Like, how did the music come about?
So when I was first making this game, I was like, right, I need to go to a few hackathons and actually like get involved with the industry a bit and meet some other professionals in the space. And I didn't really know that many people. So I went to like a hackathon in London. It was like a game jam, and paired up with the one team that looked like they had some VR headsets with them. And one of the guys on our team, Kai Jones, was a musician for game music, and he was still a student at the time. And out of the team that I worked with, I ended up hiring like 2 of them to help on different aspects of the game later on. And Kai Jones did all of the audio, all of the sound, the music, and also the sound effects design. And he was very new into it. And now he's pretty hard to get hold of because everyone wants to hire him. So I think he did a fantastic job. It was very early in his process, they say. And the music, sort of conceptually, we worked very closely together to like go back and forth, and sort of got sample music on Spotify or whatever. But the sort of concept of the music is that it's very progressive, in line with the sort of theme and philosophy of the game's story and narrative, which I don't want to spoil too much for people that actually want to play the game. But it sort of starts off like the first 5 levels or whatever you're playing. It's just ambient, right? It's this ambient, lovely backing where it really helps you focus. And then slowly, as you go through each of they're called realms. There's 5 realms in the game. Each realm has its own musical theme, musical feeling. And then, but within that realm as well, it's cut into 4 sections, so that you start with this ambient track and the backing, and then it introduces like the drums. As you progress, not only the levels get more complicated and your skills get more complicated, but the music also gets more complicated and builds on. And because you've dealt with the basics of the focus, then you can handle having a bit of drum in the background as well. And so it's kind of progressive. And then by the end of that realm, you've got the full-on music with the pads, the drums, the bass, the rhythm, the backing. And it sort of culminates in that final bit. And then when you then go on to the next realm, it comes back again to the sort of ambient. So it really sort of shifts that sort of feeling that you're getting constantly as you're going through, sort of evolving forwards and then stepping back into like a new era of progression in the game.
Is there any way to listen to the tracks without playing?
Yeah, you can. Since we've gone for a rebranding with this, I need to go and actually back to Kai Jones, because you can download the actual album on Bandcamp. It's called Squingle, the music for the game, and he's got all the music mastered properly, and you can download the music. I think it's also on Spotify. If you search Squingle, you can stream the music there. It's really nice music. I like it.
Sure. Okay, perfect. What I wanted to ask before we wrap this show up, there's like kind of 2 quick questions. And I should have maybe asked this at the start, but where did the name Squingle come from? Like, I've not heard of a squingle before. Maybe I just don't know what the term is, but where did the actual name come from?
To answer this question, everyone always asks this. I don't know how interesting the answer is really, but I think originally I thought I'd like to call the game Squiggle, because it's kind of the game, the levels are kind of like squiggles. But when I typed squiggle into Google, obviously it's a very common word, right? So it's not great for SEO. So I thought, right, well, I'll come up with a word that no one's ever used for anything before. Squingle was the word. And it also reminds me of the word swing. So it's like a portmanteau of... is that the right word? Of swing and squiggle, because swing is kind of like this rhythmic action of the ball swinging around each other, and then squiggle is more like the shape of the mazes and this amorphous jelly that you're navigating through. So that's the origin.
You definitely.
It's not a boring answer.
Yeah, you nailed the SEO though, because you type Squingle in and it is all you.
Yeah. When you type in what is a squingle, I typed in earlier and it was just straight to your page and everything. So I was like, okay, there we go. Fantastic. Now, just to wrap it up, one final question here. I know, obviously, you've got tons of maybe secrets that you don't want to share and things that you might be working on in terms of next year's content and such. But as a very broad, generic sense, what can players expect in the next year? Like, do they expect like continuous support with potentially new items or levels or such? Is that what the plan is moving into 2025? Without giving anything away, I know you can't talk too much.
So I'll give a 10-second answer. Yes, we're super excited. If you think you've seen Ben's creativity until now, fasten your seatbelts. Ben, anything on your side? That captures it.
I mean, that does give a nice impression to leave people with. Like, I mean, we've got billions of ideas that we've got in like a backlog. That I've been, because we've been refining other aspects of the game. It's not been so much about, there's so many ideas we've got, and we're very excited to like implement some of those, test them out, prototype them, engage people with them, and then build them into like DLC. And I think overall, the plan is to sort of release more content, more levels, which have some exciting things about them over time, so that people will always be able to come back and it's as I said, Squingle is a skill that you can't ever stop learning. You can always just keep getting better and better and better. So we really want to be able to facilitate people to have novel experiences while they enjoy the skill that they've been picking up and learning with Squingle as we go forwards.
Nice.
Fantastic way to end. Ben and Rodolfo, thank you so much for joining us, and for when we're recording and joining us on a Sunday as well. We really appreciate that. All the links below will be in the description for everybody. The link to the store page, a link to I'm not sure if you have an X account. Rodolfo, I know you do.
Yeah, we do.
So I'll link that in. I'll link that below as well. And then go check out Squingle. I think it's a fantastic game. I know, Samson, you're having a great time with it as well.
You definitely won't regret it. I mean, the mini is only 99 cents, so play that for sure. Yeah. And the full game's coming out this week. So
super exciting. Dan, Samson, always a huge pleasure. Thank you so much for having us on. We're really excited, and then obviously Ben is amazing. It's an amazing journey to be squingling with him. So
we should wrap it up now before it gets more weird.
Guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for joining, and we will see you next week.